COVID vaccines are now available for kids 5 and older. This is exciting news for parents who want to protect their children. Today on At the Forefront Live, we will talk about the differences in dosage for children, potential side effects, testing, and a whole lot more. The Comer Children's Hospital COVID-19 Vaccine Clinic is now scheduling convenient appointments. Dr. Daniel Johnson, our Chief of Pediatric Infectious Diseases, and Dr. Allison Bartlett, our Associate Medical Director of Pediatric Infection Control, will answer your questions. That's coming up right now on At the Forefront Live. And we want to remind our viewers that today's program is not designed to take the place of a visit with your physician. Let's start off with having each of you to introduce yourselves to our audience. Tell us a little bit about what you do here at UChicago Medicine. And Dr. Bartlett, you're actually at the desk with me as we socially distance. We'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Allison Bartlett. I'm a pediatric infectious diseases physician. I've been here about 10 years, and one of my additional responsibilities is being in charge of infection prevention and control, so working to keep all of our patients and families and staff safe.
Excellent. And Dr. Johnson?
Hi, my name is Daniel Johnson. I'm a pediatric infectious disease specialist here at the University of Chicago, Comer Children's. I'm a professor of pediatrics, and I have been with the department this time around since 2007. I wear a few different administrative hats as well as provide care to children with complex infections.
So let's just start right off with, jump right into it. We will take viewer questions, by the way, so I want to remind viewers, just type them in the comment section. We'll get to as many as possible over the next half hour. But lots to talk about here because this is big news, and I think a lot of parents are very excited about this. The younger kids are now having the opportunity to get this vaccine. And Dr. Bartlett, I want to start with you and just, if you can give us an overview. First of all, why has it taken so long for us to get to this stage? I think that's the question that everyone asks.
So, they had to do additional studies to look at the right vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. Studies are ongoing for the even younger group of kids. But really the main reason that these studies were done in kids is to find the right dose that gives these kids healthy immune systems, a really good response, and also minimizes the side effects. So in the studies of about 3,000 kids, turns out that a third dose compared to what we give to adults and older kids is exactly the right mix of really good response and minimizing side effects.
So those kids in that 5 to 12-year range are getting about a third of what we got.
Exactly.
And the kids in the 12 to 18, they're getting the same dosage that the adults did, or
correct?
Or close?
Everyone 12 and up gets the same adult dose, and then it's the 11 to 5-year-olds that are getting the lower dose.
So Dr. Johnson, one of the things that people have commented on is that, well, the kids, and kids seem to do a little better with COVID. Why are we doing this? And that's not necessarily true in all cases. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It's such an important thing to consider, which is that anytime we use a vaccine, we have to think about risk and benefit. And the data allows us to do that up to a point, but we're able to make a determination that the benefit of the vaccine right now appears to far outweigh the risk associated with the vaccine. Unfortunately, some number of children, about 100 in the 5 to 11-year-old age group, have died from COVID. It's a small number when we compare it to the adult side, but for every family, it's huge to have the death of a child. The other is that about 8,000 kids have been hospitalized. And then if we look at the other effects of COVID, well, about 4 to 8% of children who catch the infection actually have what's called the long hauler syndrome. And about 1% of the kids have some impact on their heart. Luckily, it's usually transient. It doesn't persist, but during the weeks to months that they have a problem, well, it's pretty serious. Now you look at the vaccine. Well, we don't know yet with certainty about what the risk is of the vaccine for heart problems, but it looks like it is way lower than that 1% risk that's associated with COVID. and probably is going to turn into something around 1 to 10 to 1 to 20,000, way, way lower than that 1%. So the end result is that when we think about the vaccine and the protection, well, if we look at how much disease there is right now, we're talking about preventing for every 1 million doses of the vaccine about 45,000 cases of COVID. That really makes it worthwhile to use.
You know, and it's interesting when we start hearing the numbers and start looking at the numbers, hundreds of millions of people are getting these vaccines, adults all over the world. So, I mean, I always think of this when you hear the naysayers and they say, oh gosh, side effects and what are the impacts? Well, this is a vaccine that's been tested more than probably any vaccine in history, I would imagine.
You're absolutely correct. This is one of the best studied vaccines, both in the clinical trials leading up to approval, which are based on decades or careers full of science, but also the studies that have been done after people have been getting the vaccine. So the amount of safety and efficacy monitoring that's happening is unparalleled. And you know, the vaccine sort of studies that are being done are really reassuring.
Yeah, and one more point I will throw out there: if physicians were worried about this vaccine, you wouldn't see them giving it to their children, which we just saw a video of. That was a UCM physician, I believe, who was having her kids vaccinated, and you have done that as well.
All three of mine.
Yeah. So we are getting some questions from viewers, and I do want to get to those. So let's launch right into the questions from viewers. You can type them in the comment section. I think I understand we're both on the UCM Facebook page, Comer page, and YouTube right now, so we'll get a variety. This comes from the Comer site. What is the amount of time between doses shorter with these younger kids? And I don't know who wants to take that one.
Well, the amount of time between doses isn't actually shorter. It's exactly the same as in the adult studies. So it's 3 weeks with the Pfizer. We don't yet have approval for Moderna, but I assume that will be coming in the coming weeks. And then we don't have any other vaccines that right now are expected approval soon. Moderna, it'll be 4 weeks. At least that's what we're all anticipating. For Pfizer, though, it is 3 weeks, the exact same as the adult.
Fantastic. Are there side effects for children with anaphylaxis?
So I think there's two separate things. Are there side effects from the vaccine that we're giving to kids? Yes, and they're about the same frequency and kind that we see in older children and adults, with tenderness at the injection site and fatigue and things. The concern about anaphylaxis is something that we always have when we're administering vaccines. It has been reported with the COVID vaccine is very infrequent. There's not a lot of components of the vaccine that people can have an anaphylactic allergy to. That said, everywhere that these vaccines are being administered, we are prepared for potential emergency responses, and that's one of the reasons that we are observing everyone for at least 15 minutes or potentially 30 for those with a history of anaphylaxis.
Yeah, that's
if I could
Go ahead,
add,
Dr. Johnson. Yeah.
You know, right now, roughly 1 million children aged 5 to 11 have gotten the vaccine. So far, no anaphylaxis. So things are going well.
1 million already.
1 million already.
Wow, that's actually an encouraging number.
It's a great number.
That's fantastic. Another viewer question: what about children that have had a minor reaction to the flu vaccine? Now, these are very different vaccines, though, correct?
So
Go ahead.
they are very different vaccines, and there's no reason to suspect that someone who's had a minor reaction to a flu vaccine is at any more risk for a reaction to the COVID vaccine. And I just want to put out there for all of you who are have not gotten your flu vaccines, we can give both our flu vaccine and COVID vaccines and any other vaccine your child may have gotten behind on during COVID at the same time. So get those kids boosted up.
Interesting question or comment on Facebook that I'll open up to both of you, but this is a person that wants to know about the demographics of the children involved in the study. You know, I think you said like 3,000 kids in the initial. Now we're up to 1 million now with the actual vaccine. But how are the demographics in those studies? Do they mirror the kids in the United States, or do you know that?
They do mirror the kids in the United States, and so that's good information. If we look at the details on it, the percentage of children who were Black or African American was somewhere between 6 and 7%. So it would be nice to have bigger numbers than that, there's no doubt about it. In terms of the Latinx population, it was about 20%. So a larger percentage by comparison. So it gives us really good information, but of course, even more so, the information that we're getting over these few days with so many kids being immunized and such a wide variety receiving the vaccine, we're going to have even more representative data than what we had even with the 3,000 kids who received the vaccine who participated in the trial.
Here's a question from the Comer site, and this is one we've heard a lot, and it deals with fertility or can it cause infertility, particularly if a young female gets this and then later in life wants to have kids.
Yeah, that has been a very common question that's come up a lot with both adults and kids in the vaccine. There is absolutely no truth behind any of those concerns. There's no impact on current or future fertility with the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, again, that's another one of those points, and I think it's so important. I've seen many of the physicians here at UChicago Medicine who have received these vaccines. I've been in the room, we've shot pictures and video of that, and one of our physicians happened to be pregnant, and she was such a believer in it. She got the vaccine, there was no hesitation, and everything was fine. So this is not something that you all would do to yourselves or your families if you didn't believe it was safe.
That's so true, and we know now more than we did a year ago about the risk of becoming infected with COVID when you're pregnant. We're seeing a lot of women who are having premature deliveries and getting very sick from COVID infection. And bonus, if you're pregnant and you get your COVID vaccine, you're sending antibodies to your baby, so it's a 2-for-1.
Great. And I do want to make clear, this is not the physician I was speaking of that's in this video, so we don't want to cross that up in any way. Another question from the Comer site. So how do you know there isn't the possibility of future complications given the short amount of time this was available to get the vaccine made and approved? And I think that kind of goes back, again, to these specific types of vaccines. Actually been around for quite a while. And I don't know, Dr. Johnson, is that one you want to field?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about that. I think it's an important question. And of course, there's always some degree of uncertainty with a new product. So I understand why anybody would be wondering about that. So we have some reasons to be confident. The first is that if we look at the history of vaccinology, the study of vaccines, if you don't see it within the first couple of months, then the likelihood of there being any kind of serious side effect that's going to come up is very low, at least in a large percentage of the patients. You can always have something that's very rare. 1 in 10,000, 1 in 100,000, 1 in a million. And the only way to know about that is to actually vaccinate. And so we're going through that now. And so if this is something that's really on your mind, wait a couple of weeks. Because by the end of a couple of weeks, we will have vaccinated millions of children. And that will give us even further data. As my colleague said, this is a better studied vaccine than any vaccine in history. And it's because of all these data systems that are available, that are collecting information literally at the speed of light. And so we will know within the next couple of weeks if there's anything unexpected. But the history of the vaccine for the 12 to 17-year-olds and for the adults really tells the tale. That the things we have to worry about is what is going to be the occurrence of that side effect of pericarditis and myocarditis. That's really the big thing to be wondering about at this point. And the good news with the other people who have gotten that is they recover, and they recover really fast. So it's even rarer for anybody to have any kind of long-term side effect. And when you compare it to COVID, if you're 5 to 11, 1%, that's 1 in 100, is at risk for heart disease. And as you get older, the numbers rise when it comes to COVID and heart disease. So no matter how you look at this, the vaccine is a much better bet than getting COVID.
You know, it's interesting. You make a very interesting point with the ability to track and follow this vaccine and the changes in technology in the past, few decades. When the polio vaccine came out, we didn't have the computers to crunch the numbers and track impact on kids, and we have all of that now. So that's just another layer that shows really how safe this is.
It really is, and it's exciting to be able to participate in that sort of actively through the vSafe app on your phone, and then all of the other scientific organizations that are following these.
Great. So another question from a viewer. This is an interesting one. If a parent had a reaction to the vaccine, is the child more likely to, or is that pretty random at this point?
It's pretty random at this point. We have seen that reactions to medications are not predicted based on whether your parents or your grandparents had a reaction to them. So no, there's no reason to believe that. And in fact, if you look at people who had a reaction to the first dose, a lot of them, in fact, the overwhelming majority, had no significant reaction to the second dose. And so they didn't see a repeat of the allergic reaction. So it's a good bet that even if mom or dad had a reaction, that the child's not.
So do you all think that kids will have to do the third dose like we're seeing adults starting to do?
I suspect that there are going to be more doses of COVID vaccines in young kids' future. Yeah. Whether it's going to be sort of 6 months after that second dose, I don't know. And in part, it depends also on whether we see new variants circulating. So it may not be that children sort of lose their immune response to their current vaccine. It's that there's a new variant that we need to develop a different vaccine or a modified vaccine for. So I anticipate there will be more in the future, but I don't think that we're necessarily counting on it in 6 months.
And will the vaccine have the same impact on children as it did on adults? And the reason I'm asking that question, because it is still possible, obviously, to get COVID after you've been vaccinated, but generally you'll have much milder symptoms. Do you expect to see that with kids?
Yeah, we do expect to see that with kids. So, we have to think about what the purpose of the vaccine is. And the purpose of the vaccine is to keep people from getting sick. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to keep people from getting infected. Now, this vaccine works incredibly well at keeping people from getting infected, but it works even better at keeping them out of the hospital and keeping them from getting sick. The other benefit of the vaccine is it keeps people from spreading COVID. It reduces the chance of that happening. It doesn't take it to zero, but the duration of time that people carry the virus is significantly shorter, and the amount of virus that they're carrying during the time they carry it is also smaller. What's the result of that? Less risk of spread. So the vaccine has many, many benefits that go beyond just whether or not you're going to get infected or not.
So can kids get their flu shot at the same time that they get this vaccine?
They absolutely can get their flu shot at the same time. They can also get any of their other childhood vaccines that they are due for, and we highly encourage everyone to get caught up. But people have fallen a little bit behind during the pandemic.
So, and we encourage people that if you do want to vaccinate your child 5 and up, it's pretty easy to do. You can do that at various pharmacies, but also we'll do it here at Comer Children's Hospital. We're happy to help people out with that as well. So, in fact, there's the graphic on the screen. Thank you, John. So you can call that number and you can schedule an appointment. And they're great folks over there. So we've seen the video, painless. Kids didn't even cry. So it's pretty easy to do. Another question that why can't kids under 5 get the vaccine at this point? Eventually we'll get there. Do we know how long it take to get there, and why aren't we there yet? So
the latest I've heard is we're a few months away from that. The sort of same principles that applied to finding the right dose for 5 to 11-year-olds applies to the younger kids, to make sure that we're giving them enough vaccine to get a really good response with minimizing the side effects. And so it looks like they may be getting an even lower dose, and hopefully by the beginning of 2022 we should have more information.
So Dr. Johnson, I'm curious, will there be the multiple vaccines for children that we've seen for adults? I mean, we're talking about Pfizer. I think that's the one right now we're discussing for children, but will the other ones pop up eventually, do you think?
I think so. Those studies are underway, and I assume that they're going to have a good outcome. So far, the information that we have, which is limited, suggests that. And I would imagine that the Moderna vaccine will be available sometime around the new year, and then eventually the Janssen or Johnson & Johnson vaccine will end up doing the same thing.
Now, I remember when I got vaccinated, I hope I get this right, I think I was told that it takes about 2 weeks to be fully, my immune system to be where it needs to be. Is that the same with the younger kids as well?
Exactly. So 2 weeks after that second dose.
Second dose, yeah.
Yes. So for kids who've already, just gotten their first dose in the 5 to 11 age range, we're looking at mid-December to be fully protected, which is really exciting.
Well, that's the nice thing. The timing is pretty good for the holiday season on all of this, and even I know Thanksgiving is coming up a little bit sooner than that, but at least there will be a start on this for these younger children. So. That's I'm sure a lot of families are very happy to finally hear that and maybe be able to do some family activities again with relatives.
Yeah, I certainly was relieved that the vaccine came out in advance of the holidays, because what we've seen in the past, although the past is only a year ago, but what we've seen in the past is that with holidays we see a bump, and that's because people are just quite simply less careful, and there's a lot more mixing going on. Those are great things for all of our mental health. It certainly makes all of us feel better in the short run, but for some people, they end up getting infected. So having the vaccine will make our holidays safer.
Yeah, I think there's a real kind of a situation of quarantine fatigue that's happening with a lot of folks. I mean, we're all there. I mean, we've all experienced this for the past year and a half, and it's been tough. So we're getting closer, so hang in there just a little bit longer. Another question from a viewer. We've kind of already talked about this, but we might as well reiterate this. Then I also want to talk about just how to prepare kids for vaccines, because some kids are pretty scared of this. Some adults are as well. Is less than 3 weeks okay to get the second dose? That was a question that came in, and I think we've already touched on that, but let's go ahead and one more time.
So just like for adults, the sort of 21-day window is ideal. There is approval to give it a few days early, but too close together and you probably don't get the right sort of bump in your immune response.
Yeah, makes sense. So, and both of you can comment on this. It is tough sometimes when you have to bring the little ones, especially when you're talking about 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds in for a shot, and the kids in the video were very brave, but not, it can be a little bit difficult. How do you work with your kids to get them ready for this?
Well, I'll start out and then turn things over to Dr. Bartlett. So the first thing is to let them know what's going on. Explain to them what you're going to do. Nobody likes unpleasant surprises. And so the best thing to do is just let them know that you're taking them to get vaccinated, that it's important to protect them or to protect grandma or grandpa, their friends. This way you're helping to build some motivation. And I would say to them that you can let them know that it might hurt, but that it'll feel something like a pinch, or if they remember their last shot, it'll probably feel something similar to that. So that way they know what to expect when they're on their way. After that, it's all about trying to make choices for them. Try to give them the choice, like which arm. You're not going to give them the choice of get vaccinated or not, not for a 5 to 11-year-old. But you can give them other kinds of choices. We'll do it when we count to 3. You can watch or you don't have to watch. You can keep your eyes open or close them. Right arm, left arm, those kinds of choices. Just give kids some control over the situation.
I vote for the closed eyes. That's just me, though. Dr. Bartlett, you just recently had your kids in, and how did that go?
Yes, so my twins just got their second dose. They're 12,
Excellent.
and my 9-year-old just got his first dose. And I think everything that Dr. Johnson said about empowering your kids to actively participate in the process is really helpful. Yeah. And just like no adult really likes a shot either, everyone responds well to treats afterwards. So I think some strategic planning about what the treat afterwards would be.
I was going to suggest bribery, but I didn't know if that would be appropriate or not. So
For sure, bribery in this case. I mean, don't go overboard.
Yeah.
But something pleasant, and even something as simple as stickers or a little bit of ice cream afterwards goes a long way.
Ice cream works with everything.
Oh, it does. But the other thing is distraction. You can bring a book with, a favorite toy, something that the child can concentrate on. For those moms who remember Lama's class, they talk about that focal point. Well, you can give your child a focal point to concentrate on while they're getting the shot. And the other thing is, believe it or not, if you pinch the other arm while they're getting the shot, a lot of kids don't even realize that they're getting the shot.
Little sleight of hand.
A little sleight of hand, a little distraction there. Not a hard pinch.
No.
Okay, but just something to distract them right as the needle goes in.
So we're just about out of time. I want to give each of you an opportunity to kind of have a final thought or comment for viewers who may be on the fence as to whether or not to vaccinate those kids in that 5 and up range. And Dr. Bartlett, let's start with you.
So I highly encourage everyone 5 to 11 and older to get their COVID vaccines. If you have questions, your pediatrician and other healthcare providers are absolutely here to talk with you and answer questions. There's lots of opportunities to get these vaccines. They are safe, they're effective, and they're going to help keep your kids safe, their communities and families safe, and help keep them in school.
Dr. Johnson?
You trust your medical provider. Talk to them. See what they have to say. I would say the sooner you get your child vaccinated, the sooner they're protected. But if you need a couple of weeks to just wait and watch, nothing wrong with that. It just creates a little bit of a window of risk. But if that's what you need, then go for it. The other thing I'll mention is that tomorrow, Friday, we have an entire open day of you just walk in to get vaccinated over in what we call the D2 area of the Mitchell building. And so you can just decide to go ahead and bring your child in. And in fact, when you bring them in, you'll just walk in there. You don't need to make an appointment in advance.
That's fantastic. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, everybody on this program that you see today has been vaccinated. It has not affected us negatively. In fact, only affected us in positive ways, and it just, it's you want to make sure your kids are safe. So give us some serious thought and do it, please. All right, we are out of time. Special thanks to our physicians for being with us today. As always, you guys were great, and a big thank you to those of you who watched and participated in today's program. We had some really good questions. Remember to check out our Facebook page for our schedule of programs coming up in the future. To make an appointment, go online at UChicagoMedicine.org, or you can call 888-824-0200. Thanks again for being with us today, and I hope everyone has a great afternoon.